On the counter, you see a chocolate bourbon pecan pie. The filling and nuts glisten and the sweet scent hangs in the air like a siren's song calling you, but something in your gut warns you. A slice is like 500 calories. Roll a d20, DC 10 to resist the urge. You pull back and resist the temptation.
No, reroll.
Your self-discipline and willpower knows.
Reroll.
Sometimes the rolls just never go your way. You step away from the pie and instead switch your attention to other flavors found in this Dungeons & Dragons cookbook. Dungeons & Dragons Heroes Feast Flavors of the Multiverse Unofficial D&D Cookbook by Kyle Newman, John Peterson, Michael Whitwer, and Sam Whitwer, with recipes by Adam Reed and photos by Ray Kachatourian. Now that's a doozy of a title with quite a long list of names working on it, but there is a lot of writing, filmmaking, and performing experience across all of these creators. By the way, big thanks to Penguin Random House for sending me this review copy. This cookbook is a sequel to their 2020 D&D Heroes Feast cookbook, which I've already made a video on, so check that out. The difference is that Sam Whitwer joins the list of authors here, which is cool because I remember him as Starkiller from the Star Wars games. Very cool he had a contribution to this cookbook. This cookbook kind of has a narrative element to it that kind of makes it feel like you're in a D&D campaign. There's a group of 4 adventurers called the Bureau of Dark Tables, and their quest is to adventure across the multiverse and eat all the delicious food they come across along the way. So all of the recipe descriptions as well as the chapter transitions are told from their voice and banter. Unfortunately, I've never played D&D, so I don't know what a campaign really feels like, but I think that vibe is what the authors were aiming for as you go along the cookbook. I'm happy to report that the same fantastical whimsy extends to this cookbook as well. From the visual design, the writing, and the recipes, the food has that rustic medieval feel, but with some of them having fun, modern, fancy twists. I really have to applaud the plating and food photos in this one. Lots of cool looking props that really make each photo feel like a meal in the middle of an epic adventure. These photos, accompanied by some really well done illustrations throughout, makes this cookbook very easy on the eyes. In terms of the recipes themselves, I found them to be pretty detailed and easy to follow, with some pretty interesting and engaging flavor text that accompany them that really adds to the immersion and fun vibes. Compared to the first book, I found that there are even more flavor text in this one, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on if you're into that kind of stuff. But does the food taste good? Well, let's roll the dice on 3 recipes to see if these multiversal flavors are worth the adventure. But before we eat our way through the world of Dungeons & Dragons, I want to take you to another world, the world of Spice Frontier. Spice Frontier is a fun, family-friendly 3D sci-fi adventure series independently created by the talented folks over at Steamroller Animation. It's about a band of adventurers who are out to discover the culinary secrets of the cosmos. Struggling chef Kent Williams leads his team on an excursion to the desert planet of Veltugar, where things don't exactly go to plan. Their team has to work together to repair their ship before the planet's mysterious inhabitants catch wind of their arrival. Now, I love sci-fi, and you already know I love food, so I love that Spice Frontier ties that together. Having watched the pilot episode, I really like the chill but fun vibe of the crew, especially the cyborg Sela. She's badass. Steamroller Animation is an independent animation studio, and Spice Frontier creator Jaleel Sadul is a former DreamWorks animator who drew inspiration from Star Trek and Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown, which is a brilliant combination. The pilot is live right now on the Steamroller Stories YouTube channel. Their goal is to expand this episode into a full series, so go over there and watch the episode and support them in making it happen if you want to see more of Spice Frontier. Speaking of space and stars, we're gonna make some stars of our own, but our stars are little pastries stuffed with potatoes, leeks, and chicken sausage. We're making Goldenstars. First, we're going to make the dough. In a large bowl, mix together 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar, a tablespoon of onion powder, a half teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a half teaspoon of ground black pepper, and whisk everything together. Then, in a different bowl, combine 2 eggs with a half cup of neutral oil and a 1/4 cup of water and whisk it all together. Now add the wet mix to the dry mix and fold everything together with a spatula. Now, some of you eagle-eyed viewers probably noticed something in the previous step. That's not a half cup of oil. I only noticed it now, so I'm adding it in kind of late. Hopefully it doesn't mess anything up. Once we got a rough dough, we're gonna pop it on a surface to knead briefly, then divide it into half and press down each half into roughly 6-inch discs. Place them on a plate and cover to let them rest for an hour. While we wait on that, let's make the filling. In a non-stick skillet, add 1.5 teaspoons of neutral oil and heat it up over medium heat. Then add in 4 ounces of mild flavored fresh sausage without any of the casing and cook for 3 minutes while breaking it apart into small pieces. Use a slotted spoon to remove the sausage from the pan and onto a paper towel lined plate to set aside for now. In the same skillet, set the heat to medium and add in a 3/4 cup of diced Yukon Gold potato, a 1/4 cup of water, and a pinch of salt, and let that cook covered for about 6 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then add in a tablespoon of unsalted butter. Once melted, toss in 1 1/4 cups of thinly sliced leeks using the white and light green parts only. Also add in 1.5 teaspoons of fresh thyme and a pinch of salt and cook for another couple of minutes. Now add in 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, stirring and cooking for another couple of minutes, then slowly add in a 3/4 cup of low-sodium chicken broth while scraping the bottom for the delicious brown bits. Cook for about 1.5 minutes to thicken, then add back in the sausage and stir everything well. Now we're going to take this off the heat and let it cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once cooled, have a taste and add some salt and pepper to taste, as well as a 1/4 cup of chopped parsley. We're about ready to get back to the dough, but before that, let's prepare some egg wash by whisking together an egg with a tablespoon of water until the consistency is uniform. Okay, back to the dough. Transfer it to a floured surface and roll out the dough discs into roughly 12 inches wide and about a 1/4 inch thick. Then use a 4-inch round cookie cutter to cut out some of the rounds. You can use all of the remaining dough to reform another ball of dough to roll out, and keep cutting until you've used it all up. With all of your dough discs ready, spoon in about 1.5 tablespoons of meat filling in the center and lightly brush the edges with egg wash. Now carefully fold up 3 sides and pinch the corners together to form a doughy triangle. Place your Goldenstars on a baking sheet about 2 inches apart and brush the sides with more egg wash. Finally, pop these in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes until, well, golden. Let them cool until warm or room temp before digging into these golden, delicious Goldenstars. Now, gold is a cool color and all, but maybe a better color is red? Red like this tomato-based sauce with hints of ginger, garlic, and soy, all coating strips of seared meat. This is Thrakel-Seared Beef in red sauce. For this, you're going to need about 1 pound of flank steak. We're going to trim off the fat and slice the steak into 1/2-inch strips and make sure to cut against the grain. Then cut the strips even smaller into thirds. Now we're going to work on the marinade by starting off with a tablespoon of Shaoxing rice wine or dry sherry. I'm using sherry here. Mix that with a tablespoon of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, and 1/2 teaspoon of granulated sugar. Once mixed, add in the beef pieces and make sure it's all well coated before resting for 15 to 30 minutes. In a separate bowl, combine another tablespoon of rice wine with a 1/2 teaspoon of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of low-sodium chicken broth, 2 teaspoons of rice vinegar, and 2 teaspoons of toasted sesame oil. Mix well, then add in 3 tablespoons of ketchup, a teaspoon of salt, and a teaspoon of pepper. Onto the stove, heat a non-stick skillet over high heat and warm up a tablespoon of neutral oil, and once heated, add the beef to cook. The book says to cook this in batches, but mine was big enough to cook all my meat in a single layer without being too crowded. After about a minute, flip the beef to cook the other side for about another minute. Once brown, transfer everything to a bowl and set aside. Then adjust the heat to medium-high and add another teaspoon of neutral oil and add about 1 pound of plum tomatoes that are cored, cut into wedges, and seeded. Toss to coat and cook in a single layer. After about 3 minutes, transfer half the tomatoes to the bowl with the beef. Then add in a medium yellow onion cut into slices. Cook for another 1.5 minutes. Then add in the green parts of 6 scallions that have been cut into about 1/2-inch pieces and cook for another 1.5 minutes until wilted. Lower the heat to medium and make some space in the middle of the pan and add a tablespoon of grated ginger and a tablespoon of grated garlic, adding the ketchup mixture, then cook for another 45 seconds to thicken. Finally, add in the beef and tomatoes and coat with the sauce and cook for another minute longer before scooping it on a bed of rice. This beef and red sauce smells so good. Can't wait to dig into this. Now we need to wash it all down, maybe with some milk? But since this is D&D, it can't just be any ordinary milk. So let's roll the dice on some Mingari spiced Owlbear Milk. In a medium saucepan, toss in a half cup of old-fashioned oats and cook this for about 4 to 5 minutes until toasty and fragrant, but make sure not to burn. Remove the pan from the heat and add in a cup of water and gently swirl the spattering mixture around. Then add in 4 cups of milk, 2.5 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of light brown sugar, a pinch of kosher salt, and 3 cinnamon sticks. Place it back on the pan at medium heat and bring to a low steam simmer for about 7 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then change the heat to low and cook for another 5 minutes. Now you're going to remove this from the heat and cool to room temperature before scraping everything into a container. Chill in the fridge for at least 4 hours or up to 24 hours. After the wait, place everything into a blender and remove the cinnamon sticks. Blend this on high speed until smooth and then strain everything back into the container until just a bit of oat paste remains. Discard the paste and toss back in the cinnamon sticks before popping it back in the fridge for about another hour to cool. Once ready to drink, shake well to mix and pour into a glass. Sprinkle on some cinnamon before enjoying your cool glass of Mingari spiced Owlbear Milk. Let's eat, y'all. Starting with these Goldenstars, looks awesome, but taste-wise, you know what? First thing that stands out is the pastry itself. I was expecting it to be buttery with a nice crisp, but it's pretty hard. I must have messed up somewhere, probably when I miscalculated the amount of oil to use and added it later. Maybe it didn't get incorporated properly. Not gonna blame this on the recipe because I always mess up when it comes to baking. On the bright side, the filling is delicious. Love the texture of the fluffy potatoes with the stringy onions and the meaty sausage. Really well seasoned, and had I got the pastry right, this would have been perfect. I could see this being very addicting and would be a great addition to any dinner party. Just make the crust right. Okay, let's try the seared beef and red sauce. This smells incredible and it also tastes incredible. Very saucy, and the red tomato sauce is the perfect balance of savory and zesty with the tartness of the tomato sauce amplified by the ketchup, vinegar, and ginger. The sauce is the right consistency and pairs so well with the rice. The beef is good too, has a bit of a chew to it. I might have cooked it a tad bit too long or maybe cut it a tad bit too thick, but that's just me being nitpicky. It's still pretty dang good. I could see this working really well with chicken or shrimp too because that sauce is really the star of the show. Let's wash it all down with this Owlbear Milk. I've been looking forward to this, and you know what? It's not bad. It's creamy, but not in the way I expected. It's creamy like how oatmeal is creamy. It's got like a kind of a bit of a starchiness in a way that makes it feel kind of gloopy, but not so much that it's unappetizing. I do like the subtle earthiness of it, and I dig the combination of spices. Not really as strong as I was expecting. It sat in the fridge with the spices for quite some time, but yet the flavor is still on the light side. I don't know if it's my type of milk-based beverage, but I did end up drinking this whole batch with no regrets. So, is the Dungeons & Dragons Flavors of the Multiverse cookbook any good? I like it. It's got a good collection of interesting looking recipes with food photos that I think belong in the highest tier of cookbook photos. Lots of D&D related factoids and flavor text to sink your teeth into. If you got the first D&D cookbook, then I'm pretty sure you'd enjoy this one as well.